I'm going to be speaking to Dr. Diane Cooper. She's CEO of EduFIT, a clinical exercise psychologist and health researcher who's developed a new MenoWell at Work programme, which rolls out in September in association with Carlow County Chamber. She joins us now on the show to talk about that programme event. Good morning and welcome along to KCLR Live, Dr. Diane Cooper.
Good morning, Brian. Thanks so much for having me on.
No, it's a pleasure as always. I mean, menopause is something that's really come to the fore of discussions both around dinner tables and in the media over the last probably 18 months to 2 years. What's taken us so long to get to the point where we can actually have these open discussions?
It's a great question, Brian, and I'm so delighted that this is happening because I'm 20 years, I'm an exercise physiologist, so I've been working, basically I spent the last 20 years, whether it's in research or practice or wherever it is, I work with clinical conditions, and we basically use different types and amounts of movement combined with health education to improve various conditions. And in the last 20 years I've been working with, I couldn't even tell you how many thousands of women at this stage, but if I go back to when I started out my career, I finished sports science when I was 20, we'll say. Even at that point, women were saying to me, Diane, I'm really struggling. It's a really serious thing, Brian. Women can't, they've serious brain fog. They can't remember things. They feel like they're not themselves. They have huge anxiety. They have depression. They have lots of other things. That's only scratching the surface. Now, of course, some women will have minor symptoms, but some women have really debilitating, severe symptoms, a lot of them, and for a very long time. So I've been working with women through all of our other programs for a very, very long time. And of course, then I start getting older. And I've had my own girl recently and all sorts of stuff. And I really just, really just thought it was time that we need specialised and specific health and lifestyle programs for women, not just in menopause, the years, so in perimenopause, and really kind of from about 40 years of age plus. Women need to know what's going to happen, even from a physiological perspective, what they can expect, but importantly, what they have control over. Because from a lifestyle perspective, there's an awful lot you can do using different types and amounts of movement with your nutrition. You can look at things like sleep hygiene, which is really badly affected for some women in menopause. And there's a number of key things that we can have a massive impact on. And so we created this program. Of course, it's evidence-based. We're all scientists, health researchers, have been working in this space in a long time. But when I spoke with Brian, so Brian O'Farrell is the CEO there of the Carlow Chamber.
We know him well.
He and people like him. So I pitched MenoWell at Work, and because if you think of it, a lot of women who have all of these symptoms and are really struggling, and then they're trying to do what they're supposed to do every day at home. They're trying to do it at work. They're trying to keep pace with all of the million demands that they have, and there's all of these things happening to them that's not spoken about, and they're really struggling. They're in an impossible situation, of which I have experience myself. So that's why we set up MenoWell at Work, because it's a place where we can target all of these wonderful women who are trying to do 50 million things at the same time while struggling with this. And it's a great environment to help them in. So basically, coming back to the MenoWell at Work program in Carlow. So, Brian said to me, Diane, this is a really great thing, and I want to support this for all the people in Carlow, all of the women and their managers and employers who are trying to navigate this space. Because if you think about it, I've spent many, many years specialising in this space, but I'm an employer as well. And, if you take even the diversion and inclusivity policies that a lot of companies have, and now this thing menopause has cropped up, and we're trying to think, how can we support these women? It's absolutely impossible for you to offer support if you don't understand what you're trying to support. So we need training and education about the menopause, what happens to women, what are the signs and symptoms, how can you support them, how can you do little things and work that will help them. But I suppose from my perspective as well, I've spent many years trying to empower people to look after their own health so that we can live long, healthy, fulfilling lives with good mental health, good physical health, and with some tweaks, you can make it very, very specific to menopause. So really and truly, that's the essence of it. It's about awareness, training, education, but then adding the practical skills with it. So we'll support them as well with putting them through what we call multimodal movement classes. And all of these things that they can do as well to support themselves. But we've been running it for a couple of years, and it's been really, really effective. I've invested my whole life professionally and personally in this health and wellness space. And to go from women 20 years ago telling me there is nowhere to go, I don't know what to do, I don't know what help is out there, to literally last week we finished our first research study on this program, and to have those women come to me and say, Diane, this is a game changer. I didn't know 90% of this, and I feel even in 6 weeks I feel so much stronger, fitter. I have a better grasp on my mental health. All of these things, because knowledge, education and awareness is absolutely power for moving forward.
It really is. Dr. Diane Cooper, CEO of EduFIT. Will you stay with us for a moment? Because after the break, I'd like to talk to you around the language of what I would describe as one of the last great taboos in this country, women's health. It's KCLR Live with Brian Redmond this morning. We're talking to Dr. Diane Cooper, CEO of EduFIT, clinical exercise psychologist and health researcher. She's developed a new MenoWell program for women at work, and we're talking about the menopause. Diane, I just wanted to ask and get your thoughts on, obviously moving on to discussions about how we can improve the lot of women going through the menopause. Is the key starting point for this language? Because women's health, I think, is probably one of the big taboos we still have in this country, and people, both men and women, often seem to be afraid to engage and use what I would describe as normal language. We still hear it talked about as the change, or we still hear periods discussed as the time of the month. Is the key jumping off point acknowledging and using the correct language around these challenges?
Absolutely. So you're totally right, Brian. There's two things. So just talking about it, first of all. And as you said, we're hearing a lot more about it over the last 18 months, which I love. And I obviously shouted from the rooftops, just because what happens is when you start talking about something, whether it's the menopause, whether it's the menstrual cycle, whether it's mental health, whatever it is, once you start talking about it and bringing it into normal conversation, it normalizes it, and it's no longer a big deal. Like the last few companies that we worked with, they said, Diane, this has actually completely removed the taboo around it. But often, I think, though, the taboo and fear and things that can be associated with talking about these things comes from the fact that we don't know a lot about it or understand it. So often, just literally sitting down, having a conversation, whether it's in work or at home, or I'm going through this, I need some help, whatever it is, using the terminology, the correct, menopause and all of the other things that we just talked about. But you'd be surprised, it's amazing. Once you have your first conversation, whether it's with a manager or at home or whatever it is, it gets a lot easier very, very quickly. And then all of a sudden it just becomes something completely normal. And the burden that can take off someone that's been really struggling or suffering is before we even do anything, is fantastic. So talking about it and using the real terms is really, really important. It's a great place to start.
Well, it's a 6-week programme. It starts on Monday, the 11th of September. Tell us how people can get involved, be they HR departments or possibly business owners around Kilkenny and Carlow.
Absolutely, and please do come. This is really a fantastic programme. So basically, on the Carlow Chamber website, you can register on the website, and if for example, if you're a large company, you can say how many of your team you want to register. Also, you can email admin@carlowchamber.com, and so they're the places that you can register. If you have any questions or you want to talk to me about it a bit more, you can contact me any of our EduFIT website or social media channels. And basically, just from a logistics perspective, what's happening is every Monday at 1 o'clock we have a lunch and learn for 6 weeks. So we have 6 topics. Really quickly, one's on muscle, one's on bone, one's on heart health, one's on nutrition, one is on sleeping soundly, and one is on self-care, and they're all completely centered around the menopause. And then we have additional physical activity live online sessions in the eve times for people who want to be coached by our full team of experts. So there's 2 things happening for 6 weeks. weeks. You'll learn loads, and we'll have a full team to support you the whole way through.
And taking place between 1 and 2 every day. It's something that possibly people could do as part of their lunch break if they wanted to, but they're not going to have to commit resources to having staff out of the business for hours and hours and hours every week.
Not a bit. And we'll record everything and we'll put it in a purpose-built private library for people to watch back on if they miss it. And also, I should say that it's completely fully funded by Carlow Chamber, so it's absolutely free for people to take part in. So please do take this opportunity. We'd love to see you on the programme.
Dr. Diane Cooper, CEO of EduFIT